Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Sagar Tejwani, and I have 11 years of experience in the financial services industry, working across compliance, internal audit, and risk management. Well, today I'm going to touch upon the topic productivity. Here it is. So, let me ask you, how many of you want to become more productive? Raise your hands. I want to see at least a few, right? Everyone, right? Okay, now let me ask you a contradicting question. How many of you have felt burnt out while trying to be more productive? Many of us, right? Well, this is what even happened with me, and this is what we'll cover. And you are not alone. Burnout has become a global phenomenon. There was recent research which showed that 48% of the sample population across 8 countries, people were in some or the other phase of being burned out. And another study showed that 28% of the people were in a prolonged burnout stage. So, before we proceed, I want to take you through my journey and what happened with me so that it becomes a lesson for all of you and that you learn out of my mistakes. So I graduated from London School of Economics in 2013 and started working in 2014. Given my blood and sweat, 12, 14 hours of working every day, I became a manager within 4.5 years. And by end of 2020, which is 6 years down, I was an assistant vice president in one of the leading banks in UAE. Well, everything just looks picture perfect, right? No, because behind the back, I was breaking. I was burned out. My health was collapsing. I was in a depression. I was gulping Panadols, rather, let's say paracetamols, like gummy bears, 2 or 3 a day, equating to around 80 to 90 tablets a month. I tried to take a little bit of rest by sleeping, but sleeping wasn't helping me. Over the weekends, I was just on my bed for 48 hours on a stretch, just trying to feel relaxed, just trying to feel rested, and it was not happening. And that's where I identified that sleep can't be a one-size-fits-all solution, right? So it was soon to see that I realized that there are different types of rest which exist. You would have noticed that sometimes you're just physically tired, running around in back-to-back meetings, have something where you have to drive, and any other factors where you're physically using yourself and just feel drained out of energy. Whereas there are some scenarios where you feel mentally blocked, where you can't think right, you can't think straight. You just get stuck in middle of conversations. You do not know what to do. Or it might be an emotional exertion. Have you had days where you don't feel like speaking with anybody? You just feel you are so emotionally exhausted that you don't want to do anything. And even after sleeping, you do not recover. Like, what's going on, guys? So, I'm going to share what I learned so that it helps you guys do better. And what took me time to realize, I've just put this down, and it worked for me, and I really hope it works for you. So, the first one is physical rest. As I just mentioned, that you might just be physically exhausted. So you need to realize and assess yourself. Be a little conscious and understand, why am I feeling the way I am? Is it because maybe I'm physically tired? If that's the case, then don't gulp painkillers. Try doing a little bit of yoga, swimming. Take Ayurvedic treatment as an alternate. It really does help, and you will feel better. Many of you would have gone through this. Your mind is in a fog state. You can't think right. If that happens to you, know that you are mentally blocked. And for that, the best thing is to look a little inward, which basically happens when you meditate or when you read books, the hard copy books, not on your phone, which gives a blue light. The third one is emotional. So many of you would have already felt that we feel emotionally exhausted these days. And I realized this was happening due to two concerns. The first one was there were a few energy vampires in my life who were just draining my energy out. I didn't need that relationships, but they were just draining me out. A few of them were toxic bosses. Others were some related friends. I realized there's no use of keeping these relationships if they do not add value to me, and I tend to move on. Similarly, there might be conversations which might be emotionally draining. And if they do not add any value, then they are of no use. So try cutting corners with that. It is a preventative action. It will save you energy. Yeah. Coming to the fourth one, from here it's 3 in a row. It's 3 S's. That's what I call it. The first one is spiritual. Until 2020, I was just running behind money, behind getting somewhere in life. And I never gave back to the society. I was never spiritually connected. The only thing I used to do was for myself. And trust me, that doesn't help. So once you want to do better, you really need to look at how you can give back. And that happens when you actually do community service or religious service. You wouldn't realize until you do it, but it gives a lot of deep satisfaction and a character to your personality. It does add value. The next one is social. Now, over here, I have identified there's a vicious circle. When you work around 12, 14 hours a day, trying to get more qualifications, giving extended hours at work, you tend to cut out on people, such that there's no one left. You are alone looking at yourself into the mirror. And slowly and gently, you do not even feel like speaking to people. You try cutting conversations or not going to meet people. Well, this is a vicious circle, and you need to break it. If you feel this, you need to go out and speak to people. And to start with, you could obviously look at those people who are close to you, such as your mentors, such as your close friends, to reach out, have a one-to-one conversation with them. And if possible, try looking out to join groups like library groups or any other groups where you find like-minded people, because that's where your intelligence will grow. That's where you will feel more satisfied, and your productivity will slowly start increasing. Sensory. Now, this one is pretty simple, right? We have a habit of abusing our body. We abuse it to a point until we can't go further. We just want to take painkillers, sedatives, and sedatives, and just, try to move on. A very short, myopic view. Don't do that. And even if you do it in limits. And the last one is about creativity. Well, this is something which is very close to my heart. It's because I do realize this, and I've really felt it from the bottom of my heart. When we were young, we were kids, right? We were so productive. Like, in a way that we used to be so creative, do things which were not really operational in nature or a repetitive job. We used to be doing things which were really adding value or creativity to us. But as we grew older, we see that going out of our life. We are just a work machine repeating operational tasks. That loses creativity. So to get your creative bone back, the best thing to do is take a little time off. Even if the thing sounds stupid, such as doodling or singing or dancing, which might not be professional, just at your level, it does add value. It might sound a little dumb, but it does adds a lot of creativity to you. And that's where you start thinking out of the box, because creativity helps you to think more than what your boundaries are. Well, with this, I would like to tell you guys that don't try to sprint. Don't try to sprint for productivity. Sustained productivity doesn't come from sprinting. It comes from building capacity. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good day.